Hi there. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Otterbein. Otterbein is a nationally and regionally accredited private liberal arts university. We're located in Westerville, Ohio, just minutes from Columbus. We have approximately 3,000 students. The majority are undergraduates, but we also do have graduate students. The student to faculty ratio is 12:1, and the average class size is 18 to 20. So that means if you're in a class, there's 12 students to one professor, and the class sizes are relatively small. We offer more than 60 majors and 40 minors, and we are known for our hands-on learning style and opportunities for internships and ways to really experience your major. The community is friendly, caring, and supportive, and Otterbein really prepares you for what comes next in life, whether that's employment or graduate school. We're offering multiple opportunities to visit campus, so we hope that you would take the opportunity if you can. Where Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. we have an overview where you can hear from an admission counselor as well as take a campus tour with students or a student or two. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have a virtual overview and campus tour at 3 p.m. And on a Monday to Friday, we offer a campus tour only without an overview, and that's at 12 o'clock. And on Saturdays at 9:30 and 11:30, we also offer a campus tour. So there's multiple opportunities to visit campus. So now we're going to talk today about how to make college affordable, or how to help you make college affordable. To apply to Otterbein, we use the Common App. Some schools will also offer, you have to use a supplemental application, but for Otterbein, you just simply need to use the Common Application. And then we're going to just talk to you a little bit about some merit and need-based programs and the Otterbein Opportunity Scholarship, and then finish up with question and answer if you have any questions for us. So now I'm going to turn it over to Kirsten.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. So I am going to talk about the different aspects. I know Kirsten mentioned that we wanted to talk about scholarships, but there's really two sides to funding your education. Because there are the scholarships, but then there's also the need-based aid and the things that you need to be thinking as far as making sure you're filing the FAFSA. So I just wanted to talk through each of those. Now, Michelle, maybe you can nod, or Kirsten, maybe you can nod your head. Is the majority of our students today are juniors, is that correct? Or do we have seniors here as well right now?
I think both.
Both, okay. So I'll try to address both. Okay, thank you, Marie. I'll try to address both sides of that. So first of all, the most important thing is to start with applying for admissions, right? So each of the different schools that you might be interested in will have different deadlines. And those deadlines can be absolutely critical in making sure that you can maximize what type of scholarships you might be eligible for. So the first thing you do not want to do is miss a deadline. So I would say as you're starting the process, or if you're a senior and still thinking of applying at different schools, you still might be okay. So don't feel like if you haven't done something yet that you can't apply somewhere. But certainly if you're at the beginning of the process, go out and maybe start making a spreadsheet of different schools you're interested in and putting down the deadlines for applications so that you can be really aware of those. Typically, the admissions application is the primary source of information the school needs in order to decide what kind of academic scholarships you might be eligible for. So they're going to be using your GPA and potentially your test scores. There's a lot of schools right now that are making that optional, given that it's really hard necessarily to get testing done right now. So you may not even need that, but they'll be looking at your academic achievement to see what kind of scholarships they might be able to provide. Some schools also have supplemental applications. For the most part, Otterbein does not. So just by doing the admissions application, you'll be considered for the maximum in scholarships. We do have some, certainly. We have a a very competitive music and theater program that has audition processes, and an art scholarship that requires a portfolio. And even for some students that maybe ride a horse, there's an application for that, right? So we have some little one-off things, but for the most part, the majority of them, it's just getting that admissions application in. Once you've done that, you need to be thinking about the FAFSA. So that stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And it becomes available in October. So for the seniors out there, if you have not yet filed your FAFSA, please do it right away. And you'll be able to send that to all the schools that you are interested in. If you are a junior, then you're not going to be doing that until October of 2021. So you'll go out there and get that done. So this application asks for some basic financial information to try to determine the need of your family or your financial strength. And that's how you get access to all the federal grants, the state grants, to have access to student loans. And then also at schools like Otterbein, that's where we try to figure out, what additional aid do we want to give? Not because of your academic achievement, but because we see that you want to be a student here and you'd be a good student here, but you need a little additional financial resources. So the FAFSA is critical in us being able to make those decisions. Again, FAFSAs also often have priority dates at different schools, but you only have to do that once, right? So you would want to, same thing, if you could add them to your spreadsheet and find the one that has the earliest date and get it done by then you'll be in good shape. So, and then the other thing I think that you should focus on are outside scholarships. The beauty of the outside scholarship is it does not matter where you ultimately decide to go to school. If you receive an outside scholarship, you can take that with you wherever you choose to go. So it's very powerful to have that funding available to you. So I think one of the best resources for finding those outside scholarships are your high school counselors, so that they know what local scholarships are available, because there might be fewer students applying for those than some of the big national scholarships. And I often mention that if you spend 10 hours applying for a scholarship or scholarships and you only receive $500, which that might be how it feels after 10 hours of filling out applications, but that was $50 an hour that you just earned, which is really good. So if you think of it that way, sometimes it might inspire you to spend a little bit more time looking through and applying for some of those scholarships. Certainly FastWeb is like a national scholarship search site where you can go and create a profile and fill out some of the other national things. But I would suggest that you ask everyone, ask everywhere, and ask early, because it may be through your church or some sort of organization that you're a part of, or your parents' employer or your employer, that you might actually have access to some scholarships that way as well. The other thing I want to mention are net price calculators. So a while back, the government made it required for schools to provide a way for students to understand what it might actually cost them to go to the school. So you can go to Google or whatever search engine you like and type in the name of the school and the words net price calculator, and it will bring up a link to go directly to their net price calculator. It might ask you similar questions to what would be on the FAFSA, and then it will generate a result of like what they think you might be eligible for. Even before you've applied, before you filled out the FAFSA, you could do that now. So that can be really helpful in trying to understand what is potentially an affordable option. Katie, if you'll go to the next slide. One thing we like to talk about is, don't worry about the sticker price about a school, because all schools have different sources of financial aid available. So you may feel that you've been told that state schools are going to be, for example, less expensive. And so you focus your searches that way, which there's nothing wrong with that, right? If that's where you want to go that route. But if you're interested in private schools, you might find that there is additional funding there as well that makes it just as or more affordable than a state school. So go out there and check out those net price calculators, because the sticker price is not what you are going to pay. Last year, we had an average of like 61% discount rate on our tuition for our entering students. So not nearly what you would expect when you look at the front page. The other thing here is, sorry, when we send out information, so if you're a senior, we're starting to send out financial aid awards now if you've applied to Otterbein. And you should find that the information is very clear and concise. It's important to compare schools and try to compare them equally as far as what the costs are, what type of gift money they're giving you, scholarships and grants, and figure out what the actual difference is between those schools. So, you know, we're always happy to walk through that with you on a individual basis. I know my office often offers that even if you're not considering Otterbein, if you've got a question about how to file a FAFSA or you're just confused about something, reach out to us. We would be happy to help our community to understand these things without a problem. And then finally, just, you know, we are committed to affordability. Katie's going to talk to you here now. I'm going to hand it off to her. She is going to talk about our Opportunity Scholarship, which is just another more evidence of how we really are trying to make Otterbein an affordable option, especially for our local community.
All right, thanks, Kirsten. So I wanted to share an opportunity that we have. It's for Ohio residents, and basically the Opportunity Scholarship, as you see there, it's a full need program. And so I know that you guys did a FAFSA workshop already, either last week or the week before. So you understand that you enter a bunch of information about your income, and then the FAFSA will calculate what's called an estimated family contribution, which is a number that basically says in 1 year what you could or your family could contribute towards your college education. And so based on that number, you can qualify for grant money from the school that you're attending. You can qualify for grant money from the state of Ohio or from the federal government. So one of those federal grants is called the Pell Grant. And so what you do is you apply to admission to Otterbein, you fill out your FAFSA and submit that to us. And based on the FAFSA, if we determine that your family's total income the year prior was $60,000 or less, so combined you make less than $60,000 in 1 year, or you qualify for the Pell Grant through the FAFSA, we will meet the full unmet need. So you saw that sticker price on the front page, and you heard Kirsten say that, you know, about 61% of that is actually covered by Otterbein. We would actually cover the difference through the Opportunity Scholarship Program. So what that means is that many of our students come to Otterbein on the Opportunity Scholarship with a very small out-of-pocket or no out-of-pocket cost because of the fact that they fall into that category of their family making $60,000 or less. And I think it's important to note that what Michelle stated at the beginning is that we're a private institution. The difference between a public school and a private school when it comes to colleges and universities is that regardless of how much your family makes, if you decide to attend a public school, you're going to pay the exact same amount in tuition as anybody else in the state of Ohio, no matter how much their parents make. At a private school, what we kind of our thought process about affordability and how we try to make it an equitable thing is that, you know, students who have the ability to pay more because their parents make more, they're going to pay more to go to Otterbein. So that discount rate that Kirsten talked about is actually going to be lower. They may only have a 40% discount. Whereas families who have the ability to pay less, they're going to pay less to go to Otterbein. So we just want to make college affordable to everyone. And that looks different to every person and every family. And that is why this opportunity scholarship was created, to kind of fill in the gaps for students who don't have the means to a college education. And then you'll see on the screen as well that we have all kinds of other scholarships as well. So just by applying to the university, when you get admitted, you will automatically get scholarships just based on how you did in high school. So the better you did, the better grades you got, the higher your scholarship's going to be. And that's called merit aid, which Kirsten was talking about. So those are those academic awards. We have a full tuition competition. It's a writing competition. So if you're a really good writer, we will give you a prompt, you'll write an essay, and then we select 3 of those students to have full tuition to attend Otterbein. We have a half tuition scholarship for students with outstanding community service and leadership. So if you're leading, a leader at your high school, or if you're doing lots of community service and giving back in a great way, definitely make sure you apply for that. That's 50% off tuition in addition to your merit scholarships. And then we have talent and participation awards. So if you play an instrument or you sing and you want to be in a choir or be in a band at Otterbein, we'll actually give you scholarships to participate in that. And then tons of additional scholarships and awards. So Kirsten talked about that there's sometimes where we'll have like a riding scholarship for a student who rides horses, or a scholarship for a student from a particular major that are available as well. But all of that combined is what helps us get to reduce that sticker price that, that you see when you first apply to Otterbein. So just to go through this again, I want to make sure you understand how you would qualify for the Opportunity Scholarship at Otterbein. So you would apply for admission to the university. You'd send in your FAFSA to us. And then once we have those 2 pieces of information, then we would give you a financial aid award letter, which Kirsten was saying is just coming out here. So usually mid-January is about when schools start to send that. And that would have your opportunity scholarship on there. So that's it. And then in addition to that, make sure you're researching your outside scholarships and sending in the applications and paying attention to all of these deadlines. We operate on a rolling admissions deadline. And so, if you're a senior and you're listening either live or you're watching the replay of this, and you haven't applied to Otterbein, but you think you might qualify because your family makes less than $60,000 a year, there's still time to apply. So fill out that application. We're on the Common App. It's free to apply. Make sure you get your FAFSA to us, and we will send you a financial aid award letter with all of the next steps. And then if you guys wouldn't mind, I'd love a little interaction for those of you who are on the chat. If you want to tell us what high school you attend, we would love to make sure that you're connected with the appropriate admission counselor. So as Michelle mentioned, she's with Columbus City Schools, but if you're with a different high school, put it in the chat and we'll make sure that you get your admission counselor's name. And then hopefully you filled out that link in the chat to get your information and get on our radar, and we'll be sure that we follow up with you that way as well. So I'm going to turn things back over to Kirsten Fox.
Great. Well, thank you, Katie and Kirsten and Michelle. So I know we have a Charles School student on here right now. I know there's some other students. Oh, here comes some more messages. Please do write your school name. We can also find that link that was earlier in the chat and make sure that you click on that. But what questions? This is a great time to ask. You can ask specific questions about even just Otterbein, about the transition to college, about financial aid, about scholarships. Even though we did cover the FAFSA last week, that's something that we all believe is a really important, just important for you to understand all the aspects about it. So you can even ask questions that we didn't cover today. So let me see if any of these messages. Any questions? And you don't have to write them in the chat. You can unmute yourself and ask them. I guess I can ask a question. How many of your Otterbein students come from within the Central Ohio area? Do you know about the percentage?
About 50% are local. Yeah, so we get a big draw from Central Ohio for sure.
To offer up something I didn't mention in my talk, but I since you did have the FAFSA presentation last week, I would hope that they talked about special circumstances or appeals. Did that get covered at all last week by chance?
It was referenced, yes, but if you want to reiterate it,
yeah,
we
I
might have
just like
different
to
people.
remind families, you know, considering students and considering you know, the year and a half families have been having, and that for that matter, just life, because it happens even when there's not a pandemic. You'll file your FAFSA and it doesn't reflect what your family's financial strength actually is anymore, because someone lost a job, or all of a sudden you've got really high medical expenses, or you know, parents get divorced, or I mean, there's so many things that happen that change your situation. So I just want to mention that when you file the FAFSA, yes, it asks questions that you have to answer accurately. What was your income as of this year on your taxes? But that doesn't mean that's what's locked in forever. Please, if you're having, you know, financial difficulty, talk to us. I know that finances can be very stressful and confusing. And I think for that reason, somehow the financial aid office becomes this scary place, but we're not too scary. So, and we're used to talking about this stuff, and we really, really want to help students find their way and make it happen. So, you know, please reach out and speak up for yourself so that we know what's going on.
Thank you for that, for letting the youth and any family that is listening to that. I think one of the things we talked about, I liked the analogy of even if you spend 10 hours on a scholarship application and receive $500, and that might feel in the grand scheme of things like not a lot of money, that's $50 an hour worth of your time, which very few of us have had jobs that pay $50 an hour. So that sounds really rewarding in that sense. And then likewise with those appeals, and you know, we talked a lot about the importance of reaching out, and I can see Michelle put her email in, and Katie put the email in as well for the admissions counselor for the Charles School. But as Kirsten mentioned, even just calling up the offices, I think, you know, it takes a little bit of time to put yourself out there and maybe ask the question, but just asking that question could result in some pretty big rewards. You know, the worst that could happen is it doesn't change something, but then it only is a little bit of time that you lost. And best case scenario is it does change something, and you get more, whether it's money or financial aid. So it definitely never hurts to continue to ask. So I'll ask another question while we're waiting to see if anyone else asks one. Just out of curiosity, more Chad, you put in the quote in the chat earlier on that you love Otterbein. So I would love to hear from the gallery a little bit as to what about Otterbein do you particularly fond of? If you're still with us, I don't mean to put you on the spot. All right, well, we may have
Kirsten, I'll add something too that I didn't mention in the beginning, is that this year there is no application fee to apply to Otterbein, as well as we realized that the class of 2020 class of 2021 has had, you know, challenges taking the standardized tests, so we're also test optional. So that's also something to think about. If you're filling out the Common App, you can add Otterbein as one of the schools. There's no application fee.
I actually have a question, and forgive me if I missed this, but we have a handful of youth here at Lead the Way that are interested in playing collegiate sports. So could you guys share maybe for maybe some of the viewers that may check in after this session that are interested in playing collegiate sports, what that process may look like at Otterbein?
So we do have 21 NCAA Division III teams at Otterbein University. So we definitely have sports. With Division III, you do not get funding for applying to the school, but we certainly do have that opportunity. And if we do have students who play in high school and don't necessarily want to play at the collegiate level, we also have intramural sports at school as well. So there's an opportunity that way to also just stay engaged from a sports life.
Thank you so much.
I'm just adding our website for our athletics page is www.otterbinecardinals.com. So you can see the 21 different sports that we have. There's links to all the coaches. So I think the best way to move forward if you're interested in playing is to reach out directly to the coach in the sport you want to play and let them know that you're interested. And then, you know, this year it might be sending them film or whatever if you're not playing or they can't get to your games or whatever. But our coaches are really readily available and very willing to help.
I'm gonna ask another question too, because we got two phenomenal artists in the building, Alan and Jaden, whether it's graphic design or if it's, you know, paint. I know Alan has done a mural at the Charles School. So if you guys are ever in that area, this phenomenal student, Alan, led a group of students to do a mural on his own high school. So if you could talk maybe to some of the programs or in the arts department, or how students who have kind of like an alternative pathway like art or graphic design can potentially find a good fit at Otterbein.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the things I love about Otterbein is that we were founded as a liberal arts university, so very heavily influenced in music, art, and theater. But we have such diversity in our programs. So we have, you know, biological sciences and business and education and some of those more traditional programs as well. So it's this great blend of different types of thinkers. But particularly our art faculty are what I am so amazed by. We have 3 galleries on campus, and often our faculty are putting their art up, and they're nationally and internationally renowned for their art. And it's really cool that our students get to learn from them. And we have an art and communication building, and it is where one of our galleries is. And what's really neat is it really blends the technology that is needed in 21st century art and education with some of the traditional modalities of art. So, you know, you'll see that there is we actually have a dark room for developing film down there, and you'll see pottery and those kind of traditional modalities, but then you'll see a whole technology classroom of MacBook computers where students are learning to do digital art as well. So I feel like we have a great blend, depending on what you're interested in, if it's more the traditional path or if it's more kind of modern art. That holistic education is really a factor in that program as well. We also have scholarships. So when I was talking about the talent awards, that's not just for singing, but it's for artists as well. And we do an online portfolio review during your senior year. And you get to showcase virtually your top 3 pieces to our art faculty, and you can actually qualify for additional scholarships.
That's great. I have a question. So speaking of kind of funding, so you said almost half of your students are from the Central Ohio area, but you also have on-campus living and living in residence halls. How does financial aid and scholarships work for students to be able to live on campus? Or, you know, I know some are commuters, but a lot of students may also want to live on campus, but obviously living on campus is an added expense.
Sure. So we consider that when we're putting the financial aid together. Now, the Opportunity Scholarship in particular, that is really towards tuition and fees. But if a student receiving the Opportunity Scholarship also wants to then live on campus, we do offer a small housing grant to help offset that cost a bit. But there would be out-of-pocket costs for that. But then as far as like, say you're not eligible for Opportunity Scholarship, which is, you know, a good population at our university as well. We're still trying to meet a percentage of that family's need, and your need is higher when you are living on campus because you have room and board charges. So you do end up getting more often more financial aid to help with those costs, your out-of-pocket, cost is going to be higher because there are real costs to the university to house students and feed you. So that will happen, but there is additional funding for living on campus.
Thank you.
No problem. Katie, do you know much about, or Michelle, can you speak to sorority life a little bit? I put the link there for our Greek life, but Marie asked a question about what does sorority life look like? And I'm really not that tuned in.
I would just say, I tell students that it's there if you want to be a part of it. Some schools, you can definitely tell that like the culture is that you go to that school and you join a sorority, or you go to that school and you join a fraternity. Only about a quarter of our students go Greek, and we have 16 sororities. Sorry.
Knocking on your door.
Okay.
I just heard this sound.
I'm going to turn things over to Michelle while
Mom, I just heard a knock.
So just like Katie was saying, we do have fraternities and sororities, but and that is actually one of the places you can live if you choose to live on campus. There are Greek houses. However, it is not the focus of life at Audubon. There's lots of things to do, and you don't necessarily have to be in Greek life to be engaged on the campus. I'm not sure if that answers your question. Marie, were you looking for a specific sorority?
I'm also going to mention that I just put a link there as well for student organizations and student involvement, because it's not just sororities and fraternities that are important as far as getting involved and finding your people that you connect with. And so we've got a lot of great organizations as well that you can be a part of that kind of tap into your passions. So students are generally really involved in different things that speak to them, and we have just about everything. So, and if we don't, you can try to create it. So that's kind of fun too.
And we also have an Office of Social Justice and Activism. And in that office, there's a big focus on just multiculturalism on campus. So, and I'm gonna have Katie kind of chime in on the different things that they do, but they do quite a few things as far as just appreciating diversity on campus, appreciating and celebrating the fact that we are a diverse campus.
Yeah, I'll just mention that we've had the most diverse incoming class in history for the class of fall 2020. So we're really proud of that. And then things that have existed even before we've increased our number of students on campus is our House of Black Culture. So that's considered a student organization, but it's a place where lots of different events go on, and you could be a part of that. We have the office, we have the international. We have an international student organization. I'm blanking on what the name is, but so any students that come, from internationally, from abroad, there's a group. We have religious-based organizations. So we've had an increase of number of Muslim students. And so we actually have a place where they can worship during the day. And then they have their own student organization as well. We have our Free Zone, which is our LGBTQ IA plus organization. So there are lots of ways for our students to feel inclusive. And that really comes back to our mission as an institution. So we were founded back in 1847. And when we were founded, we were fully integrated between men and women, which in that time was not the norm. Our first two graduates in 1851 were women, and when Otterbein started, we had women on the faculty. So we've been progressive, since our founding. We had African American students taking classes at Otterbein since prior to the Civil War, which was another progressive decision that the institution made. And so we've carried that forward, and we've made sure that, our students feel like they have a voice on our campus, no matter what background they have, where they come from, that they're a part of our campus community. So I think that is the main focus for the Office of Social Justice and Activism as well. And it's a place for students to come throughout the day to check in and to, have people that are there to support them.
And there's also a very active African-American student union too at the school. I've worked with some of those students, and they're very dynamic, and just really try to, like you have your tribe, they have a culture of just kind of being able to support each other. So that's always great, no matter where you go to college, to be able to find a group of people that you really can relate to.
Great. Any other questions? These are some great questions and really great insight from our Otterbein panelists. All right. Well, I know we don't want to keep anyone. This will obviously be recorded, so you can reference it later. You can send emails after this to any of the email addresses that have already been posted. I have them as well, so you can always reach directly out to me, and I can make sure that I connect with our Otterbein colleagues or reach out to Coach Chris or one of the other coaches or Anthony, and I can always make sure that I get them answered as well. I see Kirsten just put the financial aid at otterbein.edu email in there if you do have questions. Just so you know, a couple of the things that we talked about today will be future. We have some panels lined up kind of for later this spring once we got through some of this information, actually with representatives from multiple schools, including a student panel, a student leadership. I've been working with Katie about actually having one of their staff members from the Office of Social Justice represented on a panel, actually working with athletics as well. So we'll be able to kind of talk a little bit more about these as well. But obviously we wanted today to kind of highlight Otterbein and again, kind of the financial aid process and scholarships, just knowing how big of a component that is. We wanted it to really be a standalone session. So I don't want to keep anyone, but if there are any last questions, now is a great time to ask them.
Got a shy group today.
Great. Well, with that, Coach Chris, I'll turn it back to you if you want to close us out.
Yeah, I'll close this out. So again, thank you all, Otterbein. Huge thanks again to all the staff that showed up and just shared your knowledge. It's definitely appreciated. Again, for those that are watching this on YouTube, you can go and follow us on our social media accounts at Facebook at Lead the Way Learning Academy. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at LTWLA_Columbus. Yeah, we have phenomenal coaches here. So please share this with, youth, families, and we'll be back again as usual, 3:30, College Readiness Wednesdays. We'll be bringing more energy. And yeah, just continue to keep sharing this with friends and family. And that's all I really have. So again, thank you all for joining today and have a great evening.